All right, again, good afternoon. As was mentioned, my name is Paul Deloche, and if you attended the luncheon, you heard that I am a current board member. And in that role, I serve as the chair of the Core Subcommittee. And the Core Subcommittee is responsible for the development, maintenance, and the advertising and the marketing for NACM's newly formed Core. And I follow in the footsteps of my good friend and NACM colleague, Stephanie Hess, who actually started this process back in 2010. As was just mentioned, this has been a multiple-year process for NACM to review their long-standing core competencies. So both Elaine and I are thrilled to be here with you today to just share some information about sharing a historical perspective about the core, the process that we went through, and the review and the update of the core, and what the new core actually looks like today. And what's great for everyone here, the resources that are available to all of you and our membership to help strengthen court professionals through application, implementation, and use of the core. So let's just start by talking about why competencies. Well, certainly, they describe what court professionals need to know. And they help demonstrate capacity in our diverse field of court administration. And one of the most important things, it promotes excellence in the administration of justice. And as many of you know, the NACM Core competencies have been the pillar of court educational programming for over 20 years. So, as I had mentioned, let's just talk about the background. And you might have heard this mentioned earlier, but back in 1990, NACM surveyed its membership to evaluate the priorities, the mission, and the services that are provided to its membership. And what resulted from that evaluation was a strong desire from the NACM membership to develop educational programming that was directly related to the day-to-day functions of court professionals working in the court system. And it has served us well. You all remember the wheel. And we have the 10 core competencies with the purposes and responsibilities at the center. And again, this followed that review back in 1990. So it has certainly served us well. The original core was a huge success. And it was the foundation for national training programs and certification programming. Many of you are familiar with the Institute for Court Management programming. They base their Certified Court Manager and Certified Court Executive program on NACM's 10 core competencies. Michigan State University did the same thing with their non-credit bearing certificate and the certificate bearing program. And so, again, these respected and trusted national entities have used the foundation of the core in their educational programming. So, what do we know now? Again, we're talking about back in 1990 when all of this started. Well, a lot of things have changed in over 20 years, and certainly courts have changed. They have changed a lot. We've seen a lot of things that we haven't seen before coming into the courts and discussed in the courts. So let's just take a look at some of the things that have changed and changed and changed and changed and changed and changed. More changes, changes. And change, change, and change. And changed. I love that one. I don't know if you can see it. Case dismissed. I've just reached retirement age. So, we've had situations, this last pictorial just demonstrates, the pressure that would put in the courts, the past few years. Courts have been closing early. There have been furloughs and so forth. So this is just a quick demonstration of all of the things that have sort of evolved within the court system and how we as court professionals needed to adapt to those changes. So what was NACM's response to that? And many of you know that each year, NACM, and specifically the board and through the president, typically sets goals for the association. And back in 2010, then President Jude Del Priore set several priorities and several goals, one of them to create a plan for updating NACM's core competencies. And the criteria that he set to actually do that was to ensure that the update to the core competencies were responsive to a field that is more professionalized and diverse, and updated to take into account those many things that have changed, many of them that I just showed you in those pictorial. So the NACM board approved contracting with the Justice Management Institute, Elaine sitting here, as well as the Justice Programs Office at American University. Carolyn Cooper acted as our project managers to review and analyze with a group of professionals NACM's existing core competencies and make recommendations for revision. We contracted with a company out of North Carolina called Registered Creative that helped us brand the new core and developed a core website, NACMcore.org, for our membership and others to utilize to get more information about the core. And we'd be remiss in not mentioning that all of this was possible through the funding from the State Justice Institute, who provided NACM with a 3-year grant to go through this process of updating and delivering a new core. So, as Yolanda had mentioned in her presentation at the business meeting, through the leadership of our project managers, Elaine and Carolyn, we reached out to respected court professionals all around the country that reviewed the core competencies, made recommendations for changes, deletions, and additions. And they worked for many hours and many months at reviewing, again, the core competencies and making recommendations. And through those multiple years, there was a lot of editing, a lot of review of the existing core competencies, what was no longer relevant, what needed to be tweaked, and what new information needed to be added. So, getting to the core itself, just wanted to share the structural change between the original core and the new core. The original core was based on the knowledge, skills, and abilities of court professionals, again, working in the court system. And the new core, although it focuses on the knowledge, skills, and ability, the framework of the structure is more in line with talking about the relevance of that competency. Why is it important? How do you apply that competency in the day-to-day and long-term work of the courts? And then associated related competencies as well. So to get to the structure, there are actually 3 modules that were created. And they were entitled the Principle, Practice, and Vision module. And as you had heard earlier, there are 13 new competencies. And each of those competencies were actually related and referred to within each of these modules. So just to explain that a little bit more, and then you can see which competencies are referred to the 3 modules, you will see on the NACM Core website that we have each of the modules, the principle, practice, and vision. And then you will see the associated competencies within. So let's talk about what does that mean, what are the modules, and what are the competencies within. Just starting with the principal module. And that refers to the competencies that anyone that's working in the court system should be aware of, no matter what position they hold within the court. They are reflective of the enduring principles that we hold so dear in the judicial system. The two competencies within the principal module are the public trust and confidence and purposes and responsibilities. For those of you that, again, are familiar with the original core, and I had mentioned the wheel, purposes and responsibility was at the center of that. Certainly, in this review process, all those subject matter experts believed that that was still relevant and very important. A new competency that was added was public trust and confidence. And through the discussions why that was added, there's discussions regarding the powers of the three branches of government, and the power of the purse through the legislative branch, and power of the sword through the executive branch, and what power do the courts actually have. And whenever you're talking about the power of the courts, many people refer back to the Federalist Papers and Alexander Hamilton that said the power of the courts lies in the trust and confidence that the public has in the court system. So the reviewers and the subject matter experts felt that that competency needed to be added. The practice module is the second of the three modules. And that includes the competencies that a court leader should be able to demonstrate and perform to carry out the day-to-day and long-term activities of the court. The competencies within this module are case flow and workflow, workforce management, operations management, which includes information like jury management, courtroom management, COOP planning, interpreter services, and the like. Ethics is a new competency added. Public relations, budget and fiscal management, educational development, and accountability in court performance. So I think you're getting a sense that these three modules are just a way to categorize the competencies. So the third of the three modules is entitled the vision module. And that includes the competencies that court leaders must possess to be able to develop, manage, and lead a court in a strategic vision forward. The three competencies that are included in this module are leadership, strategic planning, and court governance. One of the things that I'll mention in a few minutes, we handed out the latest guide, the 2015 guide, which gets into detail about each of the modules and each of the competencies. But also our website, as I mentioned, nacmcore.org, has detailed information regarding these as well. So we have a framework now. Hopefully you have a framework of understanding what the competencies are and how they're categorized within these modules. Just wanted to talk about how the courts and those that work in the court system actually apply and use the core. Certainly for individual professional development. And it could be by individuals just to evaluate their own competency in a particular subject matter, or by individuals to actually advance themselves within the court system. We believe application is used by court leaders and court management for staff development. It can certainly be used as an orientation tool for new employees coming in. That gets back to the principal module, where again, I had mentioned people that come into the court system, regardless of their position, they should know the purposes and responsibilities of the courts and understand the public trust and confidence. So using it for an orientation tool. It also can be used as a tool for identifying gaps in knowledge within your office. And certainly could be used for advancing the field of court administration. So I'm sure that some of you can think of other multiple uses and applications for the core. These are just some that we wanted to share with you. So I wanted just to talk about the identity and how we came up with the core and its logo. That was a painstakingly exercise for us, where we looked at different shapes and sizes, and we have the NACM Core, you know, the square and the box and all that, and people were so wedded to the circles and the wheel, and I can't let go of the wheel. We actually suggested starting a support group, you know, because none of people, I won't be able to teach if I don't have the wheel. So we looked at a lot of different logos, if you will, and process. And what I wanted to share, what our end result was that when we were actually looking at the logo, we decided to keep with that. Everybody loves the circles. And we related a circle to each of the three modules: principle, practice, and vision. We applied our color scheme of red, and then we took a portion of each of those modules to create what ultimately turned out to be our logo, the core, strengthening court professionals. So I want to turn to, I had mentioned a few times about the NACM Core website, nacmcore.org. And this is where you'll find most of the information about the core. This particular page that I'm showing now is the main page that you will come to when you actually enter the core. So right from the start, you can delve right into the core to get more information. On the current page, we like to highlight the different competencies or different modules at different times, so you could read more about what we are trying to highlight. And we wanted to refer back to, of course, NACM itself and the NACM web page, that's nacmnet.org. So what you will see also is a virtual table of content. When we work with Registered Creative, we wanted to make sure that the user experience was easy, was something that the navigation was intuitive, and we hope, anyway, and we think that we came up with a good process. So on the table of contents page, you can look at all of the modules. I had mentioned the three modules. If you want to delve in right to the core competencies themselves, you can do that. Look at other resources and contributors. We wanted to make the site easy that if you wanted to utilize any of that information, that you can print and save it. So we added that function as well as easy access to, again, all of the modules and all of the competencies, and you'll see that throughout our website. So we hope and think that we did a good job. So when we talk about styling and applying the new identity, again, we wanted a good user experience. We wanted individuals to readily find information, find it visually stimulating as well. So these are just some of the pages that you will see on the NACM Core site. So whether it be a competency within the principal, practice, or a vision module, we also wanted to make sure that there was the same look and feel between all of the modules. And if you haven't sort of gathered too, there was a color scheme for each of the modules where we have the principal being this red, practice, and this orangey bronze, and then the deep red for the vision module. And we thought that might be easy to actually also navigate throughout the system. And then, again, for ease of navigation throughout the system, we know that people like visual displays often, but some might like a more textural type of display. So when you're looking at the competencies, there are different view modules too, or view methods that you can use. There's the tiles that you can actually click on to actually get to the competency itself. And then, or you can use the textural display as well. So a lot of functionality. And of course, we wanted to make sure that it could be used and viewed on a multitude of platforms, such as regular PCs or Apple devices. So we believe that that functionality is there for you as well. So I'd mentioned at the introduction, one of the benefits for you all here is that there are a multitude of resources that are available for you to engage the core within your own court. The website I just went over, a couple of things, the guide, the core in practice. And in that guide, we have several of the contributors to that guide in this audience, and I thank them for that as well. But it is a guide that will help you actually bring that to your court. How are we going to implement it? How are we going to use that in our own environment? There are suggestions contained within that guide. We have a core newsletter. So if you go to nacmcore.org, you can sign up or subscribe to a monthly newsletter that will come out at the beginning of each month that we will highlight information or changes regarding the core. One of the biggest developments is the development of the curriculum. And Elaine will be talking about the curriculum in just a moment. But that project is rolling along, and we wanted to make sure that we develop curriculum that you could actually, again, take from our website, implement it in your court, use it in your court, and the work that's been put into this is just tremendous. So on the core website, there will be a resources section on each of the competencies. And as the curriculum becomes available, then we will post it there on the individual curriculum page. So I hope that you find that resource very helpful. So let me just ask Elaine just to share some information about the development of the curriculum, where we are, and where we're going.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So the development of the new content for the core, as Paul indicated, was a very lengthy process. It involved a lot of iterations, getting a lot of feedback from the field, which I think really strengthened the product. So we wanted to approach the curriculum design in a similar way. Do you have the clicker? We started with gathering information from the NACM board, from allied organizations and associations such as NASJA and the American Judges Association, National Center for State Courts, Michigan State University, understanding how they use the curriculum, who they thought the audience ought to be for the curriculum, and what some of the training needs for the field were going to be based on the new core. We also put together a working group of about 20 NACM board members, faculty members who had taught pieces of the core over the years, allied professionals including ICM and Michigan State University, to review the results of the survey to help us really narrow down and focus in on what this curriculum was going to do. The next thing we did is put together a curriculum use plan, which I'll talk about in a second, but that's really a guiding document for how we develop the actual curriculum. And then, of course, there's the actual design process and the review process, which we're in right now. So we'll talk about a little bit of those too. In terms of the information gathering, just to give you some background on where there was consensus about how this curriculum ought to be used, the first and foremost thing you want to do with any kind of curriculum is understand who the audience is going to be. You know, quite obviously, court managers is one of the primary audiences, but the groups that we talked to wanted to make it clear that the curriculum was also flexible enough to deal with different types of courts, different types and sizes of jurisdictions, as well as different experience levels of court managers. Uh-oh, I didn't do it. Did I?
We'll keep talking.
Okay. The other thing that we found consensus on is a secondary use or a secondary audience, that it shouldn't be just relevant for court managers. It should be relevant for everyone in the court environment, all the staff that work in the court environment. So that creates a bit of a challenge because you've got sort of multiple levels of audience and multiple levels of knowledge coming in.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Oh, I did. Okay. So there must be a plug here somewhere.
Yeah, maybe we can just plug in. So the next thing that we looked at was the intended use, how this curriculum would be used. And not surprisingly, it was viewed as fundamental for the foundation for future NACM conferences, that the core content should be an element of every one of those conferences coming forward. Also, it should serve as the basis for regional conferences delivered by NACM and others, and a foundation for state programs, state training programs administered by state judicial trainers, and also for local courts for new staff orientation. So again, lots of flexibility in terms of how the curriculum is intended to be used. Then the last thing that we looked at were the training needs. And really, what does the field need based on this new core curriculum? Overwhelmingly, the NACM board, the allied organizations, NACM members felt that this curriculum really should be used to help advance the next generation of court leaders. So the curriculum as it's being designed is not only for experienced court executives and court managers to help nurture and bring along that next generation of court leaders, but also for those people who are working in the courts, who are wanting to move up into leadership positions. So that's a critical piece that we've incorporated into this. And I'm going to just grab my notes, seeing how we don't have a PowerPoint. Really, the good stuff doesn't come until later when you get to see the design. It's just words right now, so don't worry about it. You're not missing anything on the PowerPoint.
It is on the website as well, so you have it available.
That's right. So, we also wanted to make sure that the new curriculum could be adapted easily to professional development needs of individual offices of states, as well as new orientation training for new staff at the local and state level. In keeping with the kind of the modules that Paul laid out, the principle, the practice, and the vision, the NACM board really wanted to make sure that we followed and stayed true to that in our curriculum design, so that we were presenting information at a basic level for everyone in the courts, as well as detailed information for those people on the day-to-day operational elements of the court, and then high-level theory for leaders and emerging leaders in the court field. So I keep wanting to press this, so put this down. Okay, so the curriculum use plan. For those of you that aren't familiar with this is really an internal tool that we use as we get into the development phase. The curriculum use plan consists of several key pieces of information that was presented to the NACM board before we started the development process. First and foremost was the audience, which we just talked about, the use and the training needs. But the other elements were sample design and format that we presented, a plan for ensuring compatibility with existing programs. As Paul said, there are a number of programs that have based their training on the core competencies, and so obviously the new curriculum is designed to support those and to enhance those, not to supplant those. So we've incorporated that into the curriculum use plan. And then we also wanted to talk about how NACM could maintain and sustain the curriculum going forward. As you saw from Paul's change slide, there were lots of changes over the past 20 years. There are going to be a lot more as we go forward. And so we want to make sure that the curriculum can stay relevant through those and have a plan for adapting as we go forward. So the plan details, in terms of the design and format, really laid out oh good, we're going to get some tech support because we're going to get into the good stuff now. The design and format consists of 10 key elements. And when we get to the screen, you'll get to see those. But essentially, each curriculum design is standardized to have each of these 10 elements. The first is around the use of the curriculum design, and it describes for potential faculty members and those designing courses based on this competency how the material in the curriculum is intended to be used. The next details the target audience. Not all of the competencies are appropriate for specific audiences, for all audiences. And so in the case of case flow management, for example, which is the sample that I'm going to show you, the target audience is really court executives, court leaders who have responsibility for managing court caseload, as well as judges. And it talks about the ideal classroom setting. We're having folks from similarly sized jurisdictions, similarly situated jurisdictions in a course on case flow management. Can I steal my paper from you? There you go. Okay. We also have the reference to the NACM Core. So there's a short overview piece that defines the element from the core that's being addressed in the curriculum. And then we have, of course, the introduction to the content, where we're basically laying out what's going to be presented, different methods for presenting it, because again, we want to make sure that this can be delivered in different venues, including online settings. We include special notes for faculty, both in terms of planning a conference or a workshop and delivering the content. Each piece of the curriculum, each part of the educational content has very specific quantifiable learning objectives. This will help NACM going forward, evaluating not only the effectiveness of the training, but also the relevance and understanding when and where we might need to make some adjustments to the training. Each of the curriculums also has a faculty resources section. Sprinkled throughout the design, there are notes and pointers to specific resources to that topic that's being addressed in the curriculum. And then there are also a list of resources in the back that can include things like sample orders, sample forms, sample tools, excerpts from relevant publications. And then we have participant activities. Yay. Thank you. Let me just catch up. Participant activities will include things to do, in some cases, before the training. It may be advisable to do a survey of participants beforehand or a needs assessment of some sort, as well as activities that you can run during the training program to help emphasize the learning objectives and help people interact with the content in a meaningful way. And then lastly, we have a bibliography. And that's just of related resources that were used to develop both the core content as well as the curriculum content, and for more information for faculty members going forward as well. So here's what a sample design looks like. And again, I mentioned that we're looking at case flow and workflow. This is the first of our designs to be done. It actually was just posted to the website on today. So yes, very, very fresh content you're getting here. And you can see each of them is color-coded in line with the core branding and the identity. You have a competency title. It shows you down in the bottom what the core module is that this comes from. And then when you get into the actual design, you can start to see it's got the major sections laid out that I just talked about, the participant activities, the faculty resources, the bibliography. You've got sample PowerPoint slides as you're going forward. And so it really is designed for faculty members to develop their own program using the information here. It is not intended to be a prescriptive training program of here's a set of PowerPoint slides you have to use. The other thing that each of these includes are tips and strategies for how to make it relevant at a local level, whether it's based on incorporating language from local laws and rules, or if it's building examples from local studies that have been done or using local data. So that's another key element here. The next thing that the curriculum use plan laid out for us was a cycle for delivery. And that's, again, important because NACM wanted to be sure that, unlike the revisions to the competencies, the curriculum design didn't take 5 years, that we were able to get the information out to the field very quickly. And so the curriculum cycle envisions a rotational schedule where different content would be offered at NACM annual conferences and mid-year conferences, as well as webinars, online webinars in the spring, in the fall. So year-round training opportunities. These are just a sample of how one might lay out that cycle. That's something that we'll work with NACM on as we get the designs rolled out, but you might, for example, take a module from the vision, take a curriculum from the vision module and one from the practice module and present those at the annual conference, and then include another practice module at the mid-year. You want to have about 3 to 4 educational blocks throughout the training or throughout the conference to give people lots of opportunity to see and hear the different content associated with these core competencies. And then 2 online, as I said, 2 online webinars or webcasts in the spring and fall. Here it envisions one from principle and one from practice. Obviously, principle is the one that's most relevant for everyone in the field, so we want to offer that a lot. All staff need to understand the fundamental principles. And then the practice modules, we simply have, that's where the bulk of the competencies are, so we want to make sure that we're offering enough of those so that we can cover them on a fairly regular basis so that people aren't waiting 2 years before they see operations management, for example. So here's just what a sample cycle might look like. You know, again, this is just for illustrative purposes. Had leadership been done for this particular conference, we might have offered it at the annual conference here along with a breakout session on case flow and workload. We can hold a webcast in the fall of this year on public trust and confidence out of the principal module. And then at the mid-year conference in February, Janet, no pressure, doing the operations management. As I said, it's just illustrative. And then a webcast in May on public relations. And you can see, you know, we've set out a 3-year schedule for how to do that. So that's how we're moving forward. As Paul said, as each of these curricula get designed, we are rolling them out. So we have now finished case flow and workflow management, and that was posted on the website this morning. We have several more that are under review right now. And for those of you who wonder about the review process, we have a peer review process where we have up to 5 reviewers looking at each of the designs and making suggestions both in terms of content, resources, bibliography, activities, etc. So, and then lastly, with the maintenance and sustainability, I mean, we have our cycle. We obviously wanted to start promoting the curriculum now, which is part of the reason for doing this, both here at NACM and in partnership with other organizations. I know NACM's interested in building a faculty bank around the curriculum. And then we were going to work with NACM to set milestones for review, evaluation, and revision as we go forward so that we just keep these competencies and the curriculum relevant. So.
Yeah, so on that particular point, as far as the rollout of the curriculum, I just wanted to share with you and reiterate the point that Elaine made. There are programs out there already that offer the educational training program based on the core competencies now. What is being developed does not take the place of that at all. It sort of supplements that. We do hope that there are court leaders and court managers and educators that might take the information that's available. As Elaine had mentioned, the curriculum is very detailed, and I know that in the court system you're looking for, whether it be a conference topic or an educational program within your court division, the information will be there that you could lift that information. PowerPoint presentations, there are exercises that can be utilized and adapted for use in your own home courts. So it will be very robust, but it doesn't replace the ICM programming or the Michigan State University programming. And one thing that I wanted to share, because there was concern by many, especially, is anyone here, have you ever participated or currently participated in ICM or MSU classes, just by a raise of hand? So all of you are familiar with those particular courses. And we have been in touch, in direct contact with the managers or the leaders of those particular course offerings or program offerings, Pat Dugan at the National Center for State Courts and Maureen Connor at Michigan State University. We actually put them on our committee so that everything was kept in check, that we weren't stepping on their toes, that we were working collaboratively together. And so they I had asked them, what can I share with those in attendance as far as what's going to happen with their programs? The one thing that both of them want everyone to know is although we have new competencies, if you're or a staff member or someone that you know is in the middle of a program, they're not pulling out the rug and say, now you have to take all these other classes. They're not going to do that. It will be a process that they will update their courses, and those that are in the program, they will allow them to continue and take, for example, in the ICM, the 6 classes that are needed for the Certified Court Manager or the Certified Court Executive program. So there will be a balancing act for them. But rest assured that, again, those that are in the middle of the program aren't going to, again, as I had mentioned, have the rug pulled out from under them. And I did ask Pat Dugan, just as a bonus for all of you, she provided me this ICM proposed update schedule as far as the classes are concerned. And if any of you teach those classes, I know I do, and several in my state do, and I know a lot of people here probably do as well. They've long needed updating, and they recognize that at the National Center in ICM. So their sort of plan of attack is to, in 2015, update the courses that are listed there, and then they have the 2016 schedule and the 2017 schedule. And just to make a point clear, their core, both MSU and ICM, it's based on the core competencies. It isn't the core competencies or the class, it's a one-for-one. So some of the courses might not be named exactly the same as the competencies within the core, but the foundation is the same. So you can see some question marks up here as well. So again, a collaborative approach to rolling this out. Again, if you're interested in learning and being informed of when the curriculum is made available, it's a great tool for, again, individual court or state associations to use to roll that out. We hope you take advantage of that, but sign up for the newsletter so you know when these items are actually posted for your use. So, Elaine and here and I are open to any questions that you might have, any concerns that you might have. We're very excited about the rollout of the core. Any questions? Yes?
Just to verify, I think you mentioned this, you alluded to this, but just it sounds like things are in flux, particularly with regards to ICM. Just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So nothing's going to happen for the time being because their core curriculum is based on the original core. But eventually the plan is to have their updated courses aligned with the new core. Is that the case?
That's right. The courses will be aligned. Again, it might not be a one-for-one, but aligned with the core, definitely. And one has already been updated, which is their purposes and responsibilities. But they have it's a lot of work. Obviously, the impact for both Michigan State University and ICM is great, and but it comes at a good time too because they really did want to have a process for updating their courses as well, which, as many of you know, is needed. Just as I mentioned, the changes that we face. Any other questions, comments? All right, we appreciate your. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a question in the back.
Oh. Sure.
Is everything on the NACM Core website open to non-NACM members?
That's good. If you didn't have the question, is everything that's on the NACM Core website open to non-NACM members? And it is open to non-NACM members. So anyone could go to nacmcore.org and get this information. We made it available just to the public at large or the court. They don't have to be. We'd love for them to be members, but it's not needed. Any other questions? Yes.
So if you are an ICM instructor,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to have to be recertified for these updated classes?
Yeah, the question was, if you are an ICM certified faculty member, will you need to be recertified to actually teach the updated course? And that's something that Pat Dugan is actually working on to determine as far as those faculty members, how they will actually do that to get the new information out. But just on your term certification, there, just to share, and I don't think Pat would mind me sharing, is that there have been a multitude of people that have been certified in teaching these classes. Some haven't taught it for 10, 15 years. So they are going through a process of sort of identifying who have been teaching these classes recently versus, they haven't taught it in 10 years. And there might be some sort of, those that haven't taught it in over 5 years might need to be recertified, but they're still working through that process. But they will be reaching out to a lot of the faculty from this point forward to get input from them. Because as you well know, if you teach it, sometimes you get to the material and like, I'd like this to be a little bit different or a little richer or include something else. So they'll be reaching out to folks to aid them and help them in updating the material. Any other questions?
Are there any other restrictions of the use of the program by other educational resources?
The question was, are there any restrictions on other entities or using the material that's created in the development of their own educational programming? And no, that's certainly up to them how they want to use it. And I hope that individuals would see it's flexible enough to sort of tailor it to the end need. And yeah, we envision a wide range of different uses for it, so we would encourage people to go out there and look at it and see how they can use it. But there's no restrictions. Any other questions? All right, well, again, my name is Paul Deloche. If you want information more about the core or anything else, you can email me at paul@nacmnet.org. And Elaine and I thank you and look for further updates regarding the rollout of the curriculum. So we thank you.